exactly why the one form C engine is on the periphery of our kata, of our style. So, for instance, when we're working in, am I clearly expressing what it's supposed to be? So, for instance, he's grabbed my wrist and I drop, and I come through and drop. So this action all blends together. He's grabbed my wrist, I drop down first. So we're not looking for theatrics in the performance of kata. We're looking for a story, all right?
Thank you.
That someone clearly understands the bunkai of the form, and they're not just doing kata. That's what I don't like about WUKF kata anymore. It's turned into way too much posturing, and the bunkais that they use in the team are essentially, in my opinion, nonsensical. They're ineffective, and they would never be done. Chris, right? Right? Okay. So, if you have brought your rule book with you on page 8, it's going to the referee and uniforms. The blazer, the blue blazer, must have 2 buttons on the sleeves. A lot of them come with 4. You're going to have to fix that. 2 buttons on the breast, 2 buttons on the sleeve, and they must be silver. White shirt, red tie, gray slacks, black athletic shoes. Something's not going to mess up the mats. In the participation rules, it is mandatory that each federation brings a minimum of 1 style referee. According to the main style of the federation, this referee must have at least 1 year of experience as a national referee. I'm going to be going this year representing the United States. I think I have more than 1 year as a national referee, something like that. I've been refereeing since 1977, so got a few years of experience. In the international, there are Kumite Sanban, 3 points, Kumite Ippon, 1 point. The Nihon, 2 points is only for kids, and the rules are different. You cannot mix and match. If you go into the Kumite Sanban, you must be in Kumite Sanban in team. If you're fighting team, in individual, etc. You cannot do Ippon in one case and Sanban in another. You cannot mix and match. Also, as an official at the international, you have to make your decision as to whether you're going to be an official or a competitor. You cannot do both, unless you are in the veteran division, which is 36 years and older. And after your division is completed, then you're allowed to referee, all right? So the decision has to be made. We can't do that in the USAKF. We don't have enough officials. So as far as coaching goes, we used to keep the coaches on the sides of the jury table. Now they have to be opposite the match, okay? So the coaches, for instance, Aka is always to the right of the center referee. Shiro, white, is to the left. We use red and blue in the USAKF, so it would be Aka and Ao. So Aka is always on this side, and that is the side of the match that the coach would be. Ao is on this side, coach must be over there. Coaches can get disqualified, coaches can be penalized, coaches can actually be the cause of disqualification for their athlete. So we don't put up with attitudes. You may not stand up, no matter how excited you get. And I am very well known for saying, have a seat, coach. And if you continue to get excited, I'll penalize you. I don't want to sleep over it. And I have been known to disqualify a competitor because the coach is an idiot. I don't like doing that to competitors. I really like the fact that now we can actually penalize the coaches. So, third penalty with a coach, you'll be asked to leave the ring, and you may not coach any more in that event, all right? Yes, you answered my question. Okay.
Let's answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay, if the coach gets disqualified, so you cannot coach the rest of that tournament, correct?
Yeah.
Does that mean any other competitors or just that competitor?
Every competitor, he is not allowed to coach or she is not allowed to coach. You're done. Thank you. And if you have done something that dishonors the face of karate, you can be shikaku, which means barred for a period of 1-2 years of indeterminate amount of time, whereupon you can only come back in by writing a letter of admission, and it has to be voted on by the committee. Very similar to the way the WUKF was when I was fighting internationally. And back in 1992, it was in Granada, Spain, as I recall, World Championships. Young Spaniard was fighting against a young Frenchman. The Spanish and the French have been indigenous enemies all the way back into the Middle Ages, even though their kings and queens are related to each other, as in the case of all of Europe. All of the royals are intermarried, but they still can't stand each other. And the young Spaniard felt he got a bad call, and he made a nasty hand sign behind the referee's back. Fuzihiro Takagi, the most senior practicing Shotokan man in the world at the time, and a personal friend of George Anderson's, was sitting, and a direct student of Funakoshi too, by the way, more senior than Nishiyama was, for those of you who are aware of Shotokan. He was sitting with Jacques Delcourt, who was the president of the WUKF, and without looking at each other, Delcourt said, "Ban for life," and Takagi answered, "Right." And that young man stood on the podium receiving his silver medal with tears streaming down his face because he knew he was never going to compete in the WUKF or in the WUKF again. When we say barred for life, it's not 20 years and we forgive you. Go away, get out, never come back. You're not even allowed to enter the venues to observe the tournament. You're banned for life. So you can imagine how severe the behavior has to be in order to get that. And I've seen it happen. And I've been responsible for shikaku with a few people. It takes a great deal of thinking about what you're going to do. Coach's uniform. All coaches must wear a national tracksuit or trousers and national polo shirt with their national or federation name and official badge on it, and ID card. We don't have those in the USAKF. It is forbidden for a coach to wear a karate gi while coaching, even if they have a tracksuit over it. No karate gi, all right? So you have to wear street clothes. Also, it is forbidden to wear the tracksuit jacket around the hips, to have back sacks, cameras, or other badges, which we call fanny packs. So all those are illegal. You can't have them on, all right? When you walk into referee, no lapel pins, no tie tacks, no cell phones, no pens, no combs, nothing. Only your referee uniform. Not allowed to have anything else, all right? So find someplace to store the cell phone. Not allowed to have it on there. At the tatami, coaches are not allowed to assist competitors to adjust their karate gi or other clothes. The coach goes over, sits down. You're not supposed to even talk to the competitor in the competitor's lineup area. When your athlete is not on the floor coaching, you are off the floor. You're not allowed to be around the competitors, all right? You cannot hover. It is not permitted. Personally, I like that. WUKF officers or competition director may disbar any official or competitor who does not comply with these regulations. It's not the idea of trying to make sure that we get rid of people, but it's like there's a set of rules, follow them, all right? Going into protection equipment. In WUKF competitions, the following protective equipment can be used. Now, I'm going to be very clear about what is mandatory in the USAKF. We allow headgear for adults. You may not wear it in the WUKF. No headgear, all right? Not for adults. It's permitted in the Nihon Kumite for kids. In fact, I think it's compulsory in that. So mitts, white for shiro, red for aka, corresponding to the color of their kumite belt for that round. Special mitts can be worn. We're not going to be insistent about red or white, but you'll be wearing a belt, the color of the side drawn, whether red or blue. Mouth guards, however, I do like this rule a lot. Gum shields must be white or colorless. I don't really care about the black, the blue. I will not tolerate red mouth guards. Absolutely not. You can't tell if the person's bleeding or not, which is why people like to wear the red mouth guards, because then they can try and get away with something. Absolutely not. If there's blood, I'll want to know it. And I'm not personally not going to remove your mouth guard to see if you're bleeding. You get the idea. That's actually what the German doctor should be doing. Groin protectors must be worn under the karate gi. That sounds kind of obvious, but when I competed internationally, when I was down in Mexico and down in South America, these guys were known for training without their cups on, and when it was time to fight, just pull the cup on over the top of the gis. So, yeah, that's what they always did. So, no, they have to be under the gi. It's a very strange look. The chest protectors we permit. Again, chest protectors are permitted for female kumite in the WUKF championship. So, gentlemen, you may not wear chest guards in the WUKF World Championships. All right.
All levels?
All levels. They must be white in color or colorless, transparent, worn under the karate gi jacket. Some of these don't fit under the jackets. We're not real picky about that in the WUKF. I mean, in the USAKF. But the chest guards of today are really superior to these turtle chest guards that we've used in the past. They go under the gi and they can take a heck of a shot too. The WKF chest guards are at least $100. But frankly, I've worn them, I've been hit with them, and they're worth every penny. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
This next weekend, are we still gonna, I mean, are we gonna allow the competitors that want to wear all their gear to wear?
Yeah. We're not going to say anything in the USAKF. So we do have modifications for USAKF. So we permit the shin steps, we permit the booties, the safety kicks, the shin guards, things of that nature, to what is allowed and what is not. For instance, shin protectors are permitted in the Sanban Kumite. White instep protectors only, they have to be white. We're not going to say much about that unless it's very evident that you've got some kind of strange color that could confuse the referee. All right, you want to keep things as clear for the referees as possible, and as a competitor, you want it to be as obvious for the referee as possible too. So the shin protectors are worn only in Sanban Kumite. They cannot be used in Nippon Kumite. The white instep protectors can be used in the Nihon and the Sanban Kumite. These are allowed. The compulsory equipment, and this is on page 10 in your rule books. Mitts, Sanban and Nippon Kumite, special WUKF mitts designed for Nippon Kumite. The gum shields or mouth protectors. And that's for Sanban Kumite. So notice you don't have to wear mouth guards in all the different categories. I think, frankly, if you don't wear a mouth guard, you're an idiot. You deserve to have your teeth spread around the floor. It's pretty stupid, you know. First of all, keep in mind, mouth protectors are not to keep your teeth in your mouth. That is a fallacy. You ever been hit by somebody who really knows how to punch, they'll still take all your teeth out of your mouth. So what is the purpose of a mouth guard? Get a soft substance to bite down hard to set your jaw so you don't get a broken jaw. That's the purpose of mouth guards, okay? And I've seen guys not wear mouth guards say, well, I can always bite my teeth together, and I've watched teeth just blow out of somebody's face because they have no soft substance to be able to absorb. So, again, understand the purpose of the equipment that you're wearing and use it accordingly. Chest protectors for female kumite, we're allowing it for all of them. Body protectors, does anybody have, let's see,
Is that the one that goes under?
the chest protector goes under, the body protectors are, kind of sort of like that. They're the ones that have to go on over the top, all right? Like our turtle guards we used to get from Mastermind, the blue on one side, red on the other. Those are designed to go to the top of the. This one actually can go under.
This is.
Yeah, this is the WKF approved, and these work like a charm. Hand them around so you can feel how incredibly light they are. And those will take a shot like you wouldn't believe. The helmets are compulsory in children's Nihon. We allow it. The body protectors are compulsory for children's Nihon 2-point match. We still permit it, all right? So we're not going to be overly picky about that kind of thing. But if you do decide you'd like to try the WKF, or WUKF rather, this summer in June, which the World Championships are going to be, I believe it's Tampa, Florida, this June.
24th through the 26th.
Okay. When is it? So it'll be 24th, June 24th through the 26th. June. Yeah. So nice time to go to Florida. Especially if they have air
We
conditioning.
still don't have hurricanes that time.
They what? They what?
You wouldn't have hurricanes that time.
No. Forbidden equipment. Spectacles, glass or hard plastic for kumite. No, glasses are illegal. No. Now, we do permit them in the USAKF. I will acquiesce to Mr. Hickey, but I personally don't like it. I don't care if they're sport glasses or what you want to call them. They do make a specific kind of sport glass. They look like goggles. The lenses are actually a soft plastic. They're very squishy. We've only had one kid that ever wore those. I accept those, but even the soft, what you call soft glasses, you get hit on the side action and have that thing hit, you'll get a broken nose, I guarantee it. I was refereeing in the police Olympics many years ago. And unfortunately, the guy who was running the police Olympics in this area did not know the WUKF rules, and they were using 5-point match instead of 6-point. And I said, well, you already violated the rules right there. And this was Master O of O's Taekwondo, which was kind of interesting because he found out he was actually a lower ranking Korean karate than I am. It was highly entertaining. But I'd asked him about the points. He said, well, it'll be 5 points. And he said, it doesn't matter what the time is. It'll be over. And I looked at him and said, you don't know much about WUKF. In WUKF matches, when I was fighting, and it holds very true today, that out of 10 matches, you might get 1 ippon. Ippon is next to impossible to score. Everything has to be perfect. And I will go into an explanation of how we have compromised with a kick to the head being either an ippon or nothing. Because it's not possible to be on one leg and have zanship. Just this, and I'll go into an explanation of that. So that is a compromise made. Now, here's the thing that has really pissed a lot of coaches off with me and senseis. Because somebody gets kicked in the head and I call Toriyama-san, I don't take it. That's a full point! No. If it is an effective kick to the head. Now, this is where you might wish that they had Wazari kicks to the head too, because you'd have a much greater chance of being able to score in that regard. But if you want an ippon kick from this referee, it's going to have to be perfect, or I'm not going to score it. I don't score slot, all right? You have to look at things according to the rank level and according to the age level, of course. So, but when it comes down to black belt divisions, I'm looking for perfect. Let's get into, this is very important. 5.9.1 under Article 5, Protection Equipment. It is mandatory that the coach informs the competition doctor about any item or medical device, pacemaker, surveillance device, contact lenses, etc., that a competitor wears. If the referee discovers that such an item that is unauthorized by the WUKF doctor, the competitor will be disqualified. Contacts cannot be hard contacts, they have to be soft contacts. So all of that, you have to notify. For us, it'll probably be notification of the center referee at the time. I don't know what we're doing as far as a team, as far as a doctor goes. I don't really want to get into it with the doctors in the USAKF because the medical personnel we use usually don't know the rules anyhow. They're there just to put people back together if there's an injury. So in the WUKF, the team or the tournament doctors are fully indoctrinated in the rules. Page 12, protest against decision and revision of decision. First of all, keep in mind you cannot protest a judgment call. A point once called is a point. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with the fact that you don't think all the criteria were present for the scoring of the point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think another point should have been scored. You cannot protest those. You cannot enter the ring. Those will get you disqualified, okay? You can only protest administrative errors. Wrong athlete comes in for the next round, something of this nature. So, competitors cannot personally protest against the referee panel's decision. So, for your competitors, teach them to keep their mouth shut. Because if they start arguing with the referee, they can be disqualified. Very easily. We'll go through the levels of penalty. By the way, don't use penalty and foul interchangeably. They are not. A penalty is what happens through the escalation. A foul is final disqualification. Okay? So if you've committed a foul, you just got DQ'd. Only the coach of the team involved may protest to the tatami manager against a decision when the decision given by the referee panel is thought to have violated the rules of the match or the rules of judging. Now, tatami manager, you're not familiar with that term. We call them ring controllers here. Okay, that was the old WUKO term for ring controllers. And we're going to get into what ring controllers are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. All right. At one point, when I was just moving in as chief referee in the USAKF, yes, there were times that I was entering the ring and debating certain point calls because I was trying to train my referees to be able to see. All right. We've had enough of that now. I've been chief referee 10 years now, since Hanshi David Ames handed it over to me. So I think we have a referee corps that's pretty well set. So you can disagree with the call that they made as the ring controller, but you may not enter the ring and interrupt the match. All right? The call's been made. Coaches must not interrupt the work of the jury table by asking to check the participation list or other documents. You can't go to the table. Did I make any more emphasis on that? So, no one but tournament officials are allowed at the table. No one else. There must not be any loitering on the floor. As officials in the ring, you're responsible for the perimeter of your ring and for running the control of the match. We must not have any loitering around the rings, unlike the open tournaments where everybody just kind of hangs around and then you get the instructors who want to come in and try to intimidate the referees into making changes in judgment. No, we don't have that. Absolutely not. I don't care what rank a person is in the martial arts. You could be a 5,000th dan. I don't care. You don't have a referee license, so that means your opinion is spurious and unapplicable. In other words, it doesn't exist. So the very idea that a senior black belt thinks that they can override a referee that I have in there who might be a 4th, 5th degree black belt, but a national referee. They have what this senior dan doesn't have. A national referee license. You get the idea. One of our very well-known Shotokan great grandmasters in the United States flunked his WUKO license, I think it was like 3 times. And he was an 8th degree black belt, 7th or 8th degree when he was taking the test. So, and if anybody knows Shotokan, it's this guy. I'm going to leave him nameless at this point because I have a lot of respect for him. Hanshi David, who became my mentor after Mr. Anderson passed away, passed his WUKF test the very first time he took it. That was back in '83 in Taipei, China. So Mr. Anderson also passed his. Not only the very first time he took it, but he immediately became the technical head of the WUKF upon his taking the test the first time too. So that's the very first technical Congress ever held in the WUKF was here in Akron, Ohio, at the Summit Lounge at Akron University in 1983. And that was the first time that everything had been really formulated and we were on our path to Olympic competition, which we are now engaged in. Well, this last summer, however, just so you're aware of it, France has decided that no, karate will not be in the Olympics in 2024 when it goes to France. I think they made a good call. I really do. I don't like this. I don't like the Olympic karate that I'm looking at. I really don't. I don't like how the rules have changed. I totally dislike the attitude of the competitors. They're turning into a bunch of WWE idiots with their roaring. And in my time, when you won, you received your medal, you bowed with dignity and control, no excessive celebration. Over jubilation, your medal could be removed and it went to the next person down. And when I won the Pan Ams in '84, Mr. Anderson was Secretary General of the WUKF at the time, and I received my trophy. Mr. Anderson's off to the side going, telling me, hold it up over your head to show you won. And of course, there were 6 newspapers in San Pedro Sula. The only one I ever saw a copy of was the one where the guy got the picture, got the trophy right in front of my face. So, who is that masked man? But that was the first and only time that I've ever held any kind of celebration, and I was really uncomfortable with it because we weren't taught that. We were taught total self-restraint and self-control. It's called Budo, which is a major premise of Japanese martial arts, okay? Budo, martial way. The way to cease the conflict. How do you cease the conflict? Somebody wants to fight with me, I walk away, conflict ends. Somebody wants to fight with me, I kill them, conflict ends. So, ceasing the conflict can be done in any number of ways, okay? And imagine what kind of person would disturb you worse if you know you're about to get into a deadly situation. The guy who's screaming and yelling and frothing at the mouth and just looks like he's got hoof and mouth disease, or the person who just very calmly looks at you and with just a half smile says, I'm going to kill you, and you know they mean it. I find that second person by far more disturbing. That's what a karateka is supposed to become. So, displaying nothing. As an official, you cannot display anything. You must remain diplomatic. I'm still working on that, anyone who knows me. And you must not get into any kind of arguments with anyone. Absolutely not. If you have difficulties in the ring, that's what I'm there for. You don't contend with an angry parent, ever. That's not your job. You don't contend with an angry coach or sensei, ever. That's not your job. That's what I do, all right? I handle all those difficulties. And I rarely have a difficulty with it. I remember telling a grandfather a few years ago, he came up and he was protesting about something, and I said, well, sir, I'll watch the ring, but I will say right now, you can't protest a judgment call. And his reply was beautiful. He said, well, I can sure complain about it. And I said, yes, that you can do, sir. So that was a response that I really had a great deal of respect for. You know, how can you not say, how can you not go, yeah, you got a good point. So he complained, he walked off the floor, and that was it. Never saw him again. So he was reasonable. And people get ticked. Here's the problem. We're going to go into the criteria for scoring at this point. Let's see. Page 26. Okay. So, there are 6 criterion to the scoring of an econ. And yeah, Chris, you were right, they did change it back to sporting attitude. I don't like that, I like vigorous attitude, but. Yeah.
Did you download this year's?
Yeah, 2021.
Right here, 2021. Good sporting, non-malicious attitude.
I should be able to just write these things out. It's been about 2 years since I've done rough this on our side.
Oh, that's what I'm guessing, yeah. The most important for me. Mayor. Defeat them with a question. What question would that be?
What defines a point?
Pardon?
What defines a
What are the 6 criteria to a point? You'd be amazed how many people that just shuts up right away. If you can't give me the 6 criteria to a point, you don't know what a point is. You can't identify it. These are the 6 criteria to a point for any pond. For effective, some of the examples that are effective techniques delivered under the following conditions shall be considered any pond. When an attack is delivered with perfect timing and the opponent started to move towards the attacker, we call that go-no-sen. When an attack is delivered immediately as the opponent was unbalanced by the attacker, so you've got a leg sweep and you follow up with a score. You don't have to knock them down. If you do knock them down, you've got to control their descent to the mat. You cannot throw someone with an uncontrolled technique. It has to be controlled, all right? So even if it's a leg sweep, I have to control them down to the floor and then follow up with a point. You can't just throw somebody and not follow up with something either. It's illegal. When a combination of successive and effective techniques is used, we call that a wasite ipan. A wasite ipan are 2 asaris, each scoring on their own right, one on top of another. That can be an ipan. I like the idea that they added the wasite to this because there are times you call ipan and you saw a combination. And people are looking at the fact they may not have seen the combination. The one technique that they did see was not good enough to be an ipan. And they know enough about the refereeing that yes, they can see that. So one of the things that we used to do is we would call ipan, we'd move back, combination wasaris, ipan, so we gave the explanation. Now we have to do is say awasite, ipan. And that means 2 wasaris, each scoring on their own right. So, and that's the combined techniques that would have merited a wasari will be elevated to an ipan. When the opponent has lost their fighting spirit and turned their back to the attacker and the attacker scores. An attack on the exploded back is an ipan, all right? Effective attacks delivered on undefended parts of the opponent, of course, for effective Jodan Gary techniques, head level kicks. Effective. That means the kick that goes up there better be able to take the person off their feet. If I see a sloppy kick, it can't be an ipan. So a kick to the head is either an ipan or it is nothing. It must be an effective kick. Yes.
So these, I mean, in these tournaments, there will be a lot of, it seems to be the go-to fashion technique right now is that hook kick. That
The
goes
hook
up
kick is a big,
behind.
the hook kick is a big thing in the WUKF. Now, I use hook kicks all the time when I was fighting in the WUKO, but if I actually hit the person with 4 hook kicks, I'd be lucky if I had 1 score. Now, if I was from England and I hit somebody with a hook kick, I'd be scored immediately. So, the Brits were recognized that they've been world champions for 10 years running. The winningest team in the history of the WUKO under Tiki Donovan, who was the British coach and also world champion himself back in 1972. That was the first WUKO championship in Long Island, California. But at any rate, U.S. was not looked at with a great deal of respect. And part of the reason being our people that really were some of the better fighters were always going into the open tournaments. And why? Because there's a lot more open tournaments and there's a lot fancier trophies and things of that nature for them to win. So they get much more notoriety. They get written up in Black Belt magazine, things of that nature. So we had good fighters here in the United States. Our biggest problem is being a self-contained country. It's very expensive for us to travel and get international competition. If you're in Europe, every weekend you've got 100 or more international competitions. Because, for instance, driving from France to Germany, depending where the tournament is going to be and where you're coming from, is like driving from here to Indianapolis. Not that far, 275 miles, that's it. When I fought in '86 at the Ibutz World Cup in Hungary, we had an Italian team that showed up, and I was not really familiar with the geography of the area at the time, and so I asked them, well, how'd you get here? And they said, oh, we drove. I said, how long did it take? They said, about 12 hours. That's like driving from here to St. Louis. So, and there were 6 of them that came up in this tiny little car about the size of a Cooper. And you guys didn't kill each other? So, but yeah, so international competition in Europe, which is also why the Europeans are dominating international kumite at this point, and they're actually dominating kata now over the Japanese at this point too. So, there are reasons for that. I am bouncing around a little bit here. We're going to get into penalties. Make sure you stay abreast of the rules because they throw something different in every year.
You know that's all I've seen them all. That's all I've seen here.
Some of these mats in the yard, like look at cobwebs and.
No, it's like mud or concrete.
Sort of hurts yours, so you must
So in calling kinshi or a tenai, those are unofficial warnings. Once you get to the chui, that is an official warning. And then hansoku is disqualification. So in the non-contact, we have 4 levels. because you got a lot of different things. So Mabogi, defenseless attitude, is one of those that is in there. Jogai, going out of bounds. Saying unnecessary things, that's a penalty. You're not allowed to talk to your opponent. You're not allowed to talk to the officials. Not allowed to say a thing when you're in the ring. So that's a penalty, all right? So we have several different things that are non-contact, okay? An attitude that is not conducive to the spirit of karate. Now, I don't necessarily have to go through the level of escalation. However, once I've moved to Chewy, I cannot go back to Kimchi, all right? Here, I go at Tenai. The next time, I have to go either a Tenai Chewy or a Tenai Hansoku. I don't have to go through the Chewy. For instance, if the excessive contact is as such, then it really compromises the opponent from being able to continue with competition. That's a disqualification. Matter of fact, they can do that the first time. I can go right to the Hansoku. I don't have to go through the escalation. You better make sure you have a good reason for it, though. And that is something that coaches can get mad about. They can get as upset as they want to. Parents can get mad, competitors, but you can't protest it. The decision has been rendered. So, I want to get into the idea of Mabogi, defenseless attitude. Let's see. Mabogi is only discussed in the Kumite Nihon. Here we are. But I do want to get into its explanation. Mabogi, any situation when a competitor shows a lack of regard for their own or for the opponent's safety or integrity as follows. A. Attacks with an unguarded head in front. Now, talking about that WKF match that I commented on in the Olympics this last summer. He did not have an unguarded head. He came in with a perfect body position, in perfect chamber, so this doesn't have to be there, this doesn't have to be there. He had the score, he hit first, and then the kick came up and knocked him out, and I heard this, oh, that was Mabogi. No, Mabogi is this. I'm clearly leading with my head. I've seen it a lot. That is what becomes a Mabogi, all right? It is a defenseless attitude. In the WKF, you cannot call Mabogi unless there has been contact. We don't agree with that. And it's funny talking to the WKF referees. They're so indoctrinated with this stuff now that they can't envision anything else. Well, the only way it could be Mabogi is if the score's been has landed. No, not at all. One of the classic things we used to do back in the 70s and the 80s, I come in, big strong eyes, show the referees I've scored. That's Mabogi. You turned your back on the opponent. All right? So you can't utilize the theatrics that some of us used to. I can retreat to here because now I still have a guarded position, all right? If I were to hit, and you see this in one-steps all the time. I know all you guys that teach one-steps, you've seen this happen. Doing that. Hey! There's no zanchin. And if you're practicing that way on the floor, you're gonna do it when you fight. You will do under pressure what you practice. So he comes in on his attack. I have the ability to continue. In my mind, we have 4 parts of zanchin and Kwanmukan. Now, this extending ki or extending chi, that's merely a metaphor for clearly demonstrating that your mind is set for anything else, all right? Chi has never been proven to exist. You might feel some kind of energy flowing through your body, whether it be magnetic or whatever it is, but the idea of chi, and I get so tired of these Chinese practitioners, oh, his chi is so strong, he can kill you from across the room. Yeah, it's because I'm laughing so hard I have a heart attack and die. So, you get the idea. So, totally cutting down, the ability to continue. So in my mind, after I've executed the action, I'm coming back. In my mind, I'm still going through this person. Totally cutting them down. The attackless attitude. It doesn't mean taking a fetal position and being in a defensive position. It means putting your mind through in such a way the person's looking at you saying, I want nothing to do with this. That's an attackless attitude. George Anderson was very well known for having an attackless attitude after he did any kind of action, okay? He took one look at it and just thought, nope, I'm good. So that's attackless attitude. Extending your ki. That's a part of the attackless attitude. It is an attitude. It is a presentation. Now, you have the 6 criteria for Nippon, right?
Hey?
So when we get to when it comes down to the Appon, you must look for the Appon first as an official. Only if you determine that it's not quite an Appon can you go with Wazari. A Wazari is regarded as 90% of an Appon, all right? There are 6 parts to the criteria of an Appon. I don't know about certain people's arithmetic, but 1/6 in my arithmetic is not equal to 10%, okay? So 90% is, in other words, it's almost an Ippon. It's almost a perfect technique. That's what gives a Wazari. Again, the problem when you're dealing with little kids. Now, the rules in WKF are much more applicable to children because our international competitions, we have kids ages 6 and up from orange belt to whatever. So in the WKF, it's only advanced practitioners. It's only black belts on teams. So this is the problem I always had with USAKF officials too, because they wouldn't score, and these are 8-year-old orange belts. Oh, it wasn't a good enough technique. And then they'd wonder why they had injuries. If there are a lot of injuries in your ring, it's not because your athletes don't have control, it's because you can't control your ring. I make it very clear when I first enter into the ring. Now you can't do this internationally, but I can still do it here. Especially when I have the testosterone demons, the black belts from 14 on up, okay? The most difficult group of people to control. And so I will pull that group in before we even start, and I will let them know exactly what I am looking at and exactly how I will penalize you if you violate the rules. And I don't play nice. First of all,
It's closed.
this ring is mine.
No.
This is my ring, and I am allowing you to use it. That's all there is to it. So that's something you want to make sure of. As center referee, you govern the ring. It's yours. Okay?
Unfortunately, we're closed in December.
Defeat due to a foul or disqualification. This is page 27. When a competitor commits an act failing under any of the following cases, the referee shall announce the defeat of the offending competitor. In the case of a competitor, after having been warned once, repeats similar acts or acts infringing upon the rules, the referee may announce their defeat because of warnings already incurred. okay? This has to do with the antennae, because the antennae, there's only 3 levels, okay? So the first is unofficial warning, the second one is the warning, which is what they're talking about, the third one, you're done, go away, okay? Failing to obey the orders of the referee, there can be no resistance. Resistance is futile. So keep that in mind, all right? We have no sense of humor in our approach. If a competitor, this is very important, folks, especially when you're in the adolescents divisions. And on the other side of the coin, the other group that I find really interesting are the 36 and older. Because a lot of the guys that compete in the and men in particular, a lot of the men that compete in the 36 and over tend to be really big guys. I haven't seen too many lightweights that fought in the 36 senior division. And most of them started in karate late in life. And so they're on their last hurrah. A lot of these guys are playing football in the kumite floor. They get out there, kabam! I mean, they're hitting each other as hard as they possibly can. I find it highly entertaining because that's not really karate, guys. So somebody had asked me, I was still competing in the 18 to 35 division when I was 37. And somebody asked, why aren't you going in the senior division? I said, you out of your mind? These guys are nuts. It's not that I can't beat them, but I'm not going to get taken out because some idiot doesn't know what yame means and doesn't stop. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. If a competitor becomes overexcited to such an extent that they are considered by the referee to be a danger to themselves or their opponent. Over-exuberation. I've been known to just look at them and say, settle down, get a grip. Or for instance, I'm in the maybe the 17-year-old black belt division, and one guy comes in and really cracks the other guy, and I give a penalty. And then the other fellow decides he's going to return, tit for tat, whack, he comes in, I give him a penalty. I'll usually call him in and say, okay guys, you got that out of your system now? Can we now have a match? You get the idea. So again, I downplay it. I'm not being overly severe. I'm using a little bit of gentle sarcasm and letting the person know you're really being stupid. And all you're going to get is disqualified, and you're going to hurt somebody. By the way, in the United States, criminal law follows you into the ring. We had a situation, it was one of the last tournaments Larry Feldman and I did up in Lakeland Community College. We had some purple belt fighting, and he got crunched. When they opened his gi and I took one look at the guy and I thought, man, I don't know what the instructor was thinking letting that guy fight. Because I mean, this guy had no muscle mass whatsoever. The strike was not malicious, it wasn't hard, but he couldn't take it. They put him down. So the next thing I know, I've got Lakeland police, campus police, and I have to talk to them since I'm director of the tournament. I was where Larry Feldman said, oh no, you take care of this one. We were co-directors, my God, that's great. So, and it became very clear that there was nothing malicious. Next thing I know, I've got Menor police showing up and they're ready to bust somebody. They want to take somebody. And I just looked at them and said, guys, chill out. Do a loop, man. That's the 70s. So, at any rate, it became very evident that the guy had not done anything malicious. But if he had malicious, for instance, Tony Clark, one of the best fighters Kwanmukan ever produced, he used to go in. There was another fellow that trained with us back in the days by the name of Prentice, and it was later suspected that Prentice had been the Highland Square rapist back in the 80s. Yeah, we've had some really interesting people go through our system. Well, we used to be on Store Avenue, which is right in the middle of the hood. Mm-hmm. So we had some really interesting fighters. But Tony Clark and Prentice used to go in, and they would actually talk to each other before the tournament and say, okay, who are we going to jack up today? That's what they did. They went in to purposefully jack somebody up. This is back in the 70s and the 80s. You do that stuff today now, and you're going to be sitting some time in the joint. So it's assault. So keep that in mind. And if you have any of your testosterone fighters, warn them. You're not going full contact. If you want to go full contact, go someplace that has a cage. That's not here, okay? If the act or acts of a competitor are considered as malicious or willfully violating the rules, that's an immediate attire, hansoku, and could be a shikaku. And I'll get into the final shikaku. I don't like shikakos. Shikakos means everybody has to write a report in the ring, and then I have to handle processing the stuff and get it handed in, and because we cannot violate athletes' rights. And they have, we'll have to go over what has to be done in the event of a shikako, which I hope it doesn't happen. Shikako is the ultimate bar. That means you really screwed up. And, you come in maliciously and you're really trying to hurt somebody, really trying to get even. Yeah, that could justifiably be a shikako. Even if you think the guy really nailed you. There is no getting even in a karate mindset. That's not karate. That's street. It's this American idea of you got to get even. No, there is no getting even. And Mr. Anderson used to say this in dojo sparring, as he said, I don't ever want any indication of, aha, I got you, which we used to have. No. People don't learn how to fight well under that kind of situation. So a point has been scored, it's done. I remembered the points that I'd scored. I remembered the scores on me. I always knew what the score was, and I knew exactly how many penalties I had, how many penalties my opponent had, and I've got a magnificent internal clock, so I knew exactly how much time I had left and how to run the ring out. And that's one of the things we'll have to get into as far as avoiding combat is one of the Hanshi rulings. And to run the ring out, you got to know what you're doing. You have to be willing to try and engage. Hey, Lance, how you doing? Good. So you have to be ready to try and engage in the fighting. You can't just run away, all right? So if you're avoiding, it comes to Hanshi. Any unruly behavior from people connected with the competitor, such as the coach, manager, supporters, etc., may result in disqualification of the competitor and or the team. And that means that parents can result in the disqualification of their child. In other words, don't try to walk into the ring and don't start screaming and yelling at parents the way some people like to in baseball where they yell at the umpire. That'll get your kid disqualified. I'm not putting up with it. I don't care how mad you are about your kid. I don't want to disqualify your kid because as a parent you're a moron, but that's okay, I don't lose sleep over it, all right? And I definitely don't lose sleep over anybody who's abusing my referees. I won't put up with it, absolutely not. Hansoku may be opposed directly without following the penalty scale if the action brings a handicap to the other competitor and the chances for winning are very badly diminished. For example, facial injury, broken nose, broken hand, finger. Any competitor or team who receives Hansoku in the semifinals will still receive a bronze medal. Any competitor who receives a Hansoku in the final will still receive a silver medal. Any competitor or team who receives shikako in the semifinal or final will not receive a medal. If you've been shikako, you get nothing. You're out.
You move the other competitors up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what was third would have been silver.
Exactly. Scoring areas and scoring techniques. They've limited this to 6. I'm going to give you a 7. So, the head, which according to these rules, they regard as anything from here up. Okay, the old USAKF, we had the head, the neck, which does not include the throat. So head, neck, sides, chest, abdomen, back, below the shoulder blades. Unlike the old wuko, we could actually hit somebody up here and get a point. No, it has to be from here to here. All right? So shoulder blades are not the target. All right? Throat. Penalty. The throat is not a target in any way, shape, or form. Even to throw a technique towards the throat is penalized, is a penalty. Any contact with the throat is escalated to the penalty immediately, right? So, this is forbidden. Thank you. And I still hear people try to argue, well, they didn't make contact, so I can't score it, but I'm not going to penalize it. You have to. It's a penalty. Even throwing it to the throat, doesn't matter if contact has been made or not. The throat is not a target. Therefore, it is an illegal technique, all right? Open hand techniques to the head are illegal, all right? Actually, to the face. And they talk about head. We actually separated head and face in the old WUKF. They haven't. So the face is considered part of the head. So any techniques that are illegal for the head, for the face, are just plain illegal. All right. Besides, in WUKF and in USAKF, I haven't really seen people try to come in with shoe toes or high toes. That's usually in the open tournament stuff. Forbidden techniques. Toby Getty, jumping kicks. They are illegal. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that a kick where you're driving across the floor, that's not a jumping kick. It's where your feet clearly are off the ground. Classic open tournament. Jumping back fists. Illegal. I'm not even going to say if that's illegal or not, but in a lot of the open tournaments, they stick the hand out, they touch, they get a point. No, it's got to be controlled, all right? So, Tony.
Dispatch kill. I want a new one.
Surprise! However, if he's coming in with and I hit him this way, watch how my feet are moving. That's perfectly legal. He's coming in on the action, I might shift my feet. He's coming in on the action, say! And I might make a foot shift of that nature, as long as I'm not going way up in the air, but that kind of technique is still legal. It is not a jumping technique. I am in a controlled environment, a controlled situation.
I've seen people in the past do this like, it's not really like a jump kick, but it's like a step in kind of jumping front kick thing. As long as one foot is on the ground when the other foot makes contact.
As long as it's not a jump kick.
Right.
As long as it's not a jumping kick. I might come in with a floating kick.
Right.
It's perfectly legal. You can't jump. We used to do an action, you remember this, it was back in the 70s, 80s. And we'd come in with a reverse punch and go right into a flying side kick and follow up with a reverse punch. That was one of our classics. And they worked. They really did. But we didn't really jump way up. It was more, which led into the floating kick and the follow-up action. That kind of thing is legal. It's when it's a clear jumping technique. It is illegal. All right? It's not controllable.
Like a drift kick, huh?
Yeah, the drifting kicks are fine. Yeah, exactly.
How about ridge hand? You said you can't,
Bridge hand to the head, no.
not at all.
Can't use open hands. No open fingers. That's always been the case. That was the case back in the old AAU and the USAKF. The whole time we were training, no open hands. That was purely the open circuit that we used to do. An effective technique delivered simultaneously as the timeout bell signals the end shall be counted into the score. An attack, even if effective, delivered after the timeout bell signals the end of the match shall not be recognized as such, nor shall it constitute a basis for decision. The question becomes, when does time end? Does it end with the referee's yame, or does it end with the timeout bell? The referee should be paying attention, so your yame should be right on top of that bell anyhow, all right? And in particular, itoshu baraku, which means a little time left. That's 15 seconds, all right? At one point, it was 10 seconds. Another time, it was 30 seconds. Now, it's 15 seconds. And that is something that the table help we usually call out, or the arbitrator, or the if the arbitrator hasn't called it, then that's where the tatami manager then will or ring controller will then say itoshu baraku. Atoshu Baraku means a little time left. So as a center referee, you hear, Atoshu Baraku, you got 15 seconds. You should have that kind of an internal clock where you can stay on top of it, okay? So being a referee means absolute concentration through the entire event. Watching what's going on in the tournament, not allowing yourself to become distracted. Also, as an official, when you are in the ring, the only people you may speak to are fellow officials, table help, competitors if necessary. No one else. You are not allowed to converse with coaches. That's the center referee. And that should be very, very limited. I'm not going to have a conversation with a coach. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to give explanations to the coach. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a coach and you don't know the rules, what the hell are you doing coaching? You should know the rules as well as the officials. You get the idea. So, and I've used this example many times. If you look at football, who's the most knowledgeable person on the field? The official? The coach? The player? In the NFL, the officials all have to go to a referee college. They know the rules, inside and out, much better than the coaches do. The coaches know the rules from the application of the game per the athlete, not the technical aspects necessarily. The better coaches do. The athletes who love to think they're the ones who know the rules. They don't know a damn thing. Athletes are notoriously arrogant, and the athletes usually don't know the rules. That was one of the places where those of us in Kwanmukan had an advantage, as much as we hated it, because George Anderson made us referee from day one. So it helped us as competitors too, because we knew the rules. And most of our fellow competitors did not know the rules. So there's an advantage to that kind of thing. The Chicago, I'm trying to get into, let's see, here we go, no, that's Hanshi. The gesture for Chicago. This. Aka, Chicago. Bloodbath in Chicago, I think it was 83. We filled all the emergency rooms in Chicago. The city fathers actually came in and shut the tournament down because they wanted to know what the heck we were doing. And it was in Chicago, Illinois, so it got to the point where the referees were all coming in going, Aka, Chicago. So that became our story for that. So before Chicago can be imposed, the referee must consult the tatami manager. That's your ring controller. You can't do it of your own volition, no matter if the mirror agrees with you or not. And then the WUKF referee commission, which in this case is me. Okay? So you cannot impose Chicago on your own. It has to be approved by the higher levels, which is very important because people sue over anything in this day and age. And if there's any indication that you have violated an athlete's rights, you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands, all right? I used to go to a tournament of a friend of mine in Wisconsin, and he would sanction it under USAKF rules, but I really had to bring the hammer down on him at one point because they kept trying to modify the rules to keep their open Taekwondo buddies happy. For instance, contact to the head. So they voted on whether there'd be contact. Because Taekwondo, oh, you gotta have contact to the head. These are also idiots who've never studied what CTE is, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. This is exactly why with kids, you gotta watch excessive contact to the body because kids' necks aren't that strong. You hit too hard, the head jars, you're leading into a potential concussion, which can also lead to CTE. And now they do have a baseline for CTE. It used to be it could only be diagnosed after the person was already dead. They'd have to take the brain and send it off to be studied. But now they've actually got a baseline on CTE. And it's interesting when you come across a lot of the NFL players today that are saying, I'm not going to let my kid play football. Purely because of that. So excessive contact, we can't expect heavy contact with kids. Here's another point of contention that I've had with referees. Nowhere in the rules does it say contact has to be made to score. It is implied. I'm not going to score black belts that are not making contact. I'm probably not going to score adult divisions that are not making reasonable contact. Now keep in mind, novice, beginner, intermediate divisions, we're still going by that. They go by belt ranking in the WUKF according to the Chilicon belt ranking structure. We still go by 0 to 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, over 3 years is advanced. So for the first 3 divisions, no face touch. Kicks or hands. Yes, penalty, even though it's light touch. Now, that kind of penalty, when I say that has to be a penalty, I haven't heard it, right? I can actually penalize a person by saying, Tori, my son, or something like that. There's nothing malicious, I haven't injured him, but you cannot score it. You can't say, well, that was an Ipan quality technique, so I'm going to drop it to a Wasara. No, you can't score it at all. It's contact. And in this group, they tried to vote on head contact. Thank you. They decided they were going to accept head contact. I walked up to Peter and said, I'm going to warn you about this once, and only once. You better pray you don't have contact and ends up with a lawsuit, because if there is a lawsuit over excessive contact, the USAKF will not defend you and their attorneys will not cover you, even though you're sanctioned under USAKF. We'll have to. Nope. You adjust the rules. You're allowing contact, but we have very clearly said in our rules, and they are written, no contact. You can't violate the rules and think that an attorney is going to represent you, all right? And any of you who own dojos know doggone well you got liability insurance, and you better read your liability insurance completely inside and out to find out what you really are covered under, because a lot of the stuff you assume you'll be covered under, you're not. So, which is also why there's additional riders to be able to get if you want to. So, the competitor who receives the Shikako will lose all positions he or she won before in that round category. He and she will not receive a medal. Coaches, penalties, and warnings. The coaches will be penalized for bad behavior, verbal abuse, physical aggressiveness against officials or against their own students. So coaches have to have some level of self-control, okay? Can't be Major League Baseball when you run out and start screaming and yelling at the umpire, all right? I love to pick on professional sports, I really do. So, the penalty scale for coaches will have 3 steps: Kinchi, Kinchi Chui, and Kinchi Hansoku. In special situations, Kinchi Hansoku can be imposed directly. It's got to be a pretty heavy violation, you can see that. The decision to warn or penalize a coach will be taken by the referee panel and the tatami manager. The referee panel consists of the center referee, the mirror, the kansa, the wandering kansa, if we have enough officials for that, and the tatami manager. In other words, all the officials that are on the tatami at the time. After the decision to warn a coach has been taken, the tatami manager will mark an X on the back of the coach's badge and certify this with his signature. After the 3rd mark, the WUKF referee commission will forbid him or her to act as a coach during the remainder of the competition. So all competitors, once you've been banned, that's it. You're not even allowed on the floor now. Go up in the stands like a good little boy or girl and behave yourself. After the WUKF referee commission could also impose a suspension for a period of time from all competitions under the WUKF umbrella. Again, it has to be pretty severe, but I've seen it. So, you have coaches that are just behaving in a way that is a complete violation of Budo and really brings karate under question as far as what we value, all right? I have never seen it as long as I've been chief referee. Matter of fact, I don't think I ever saw anything of that nature occur through all my years of competition. The coaches in the USAKF were always very well behaved. Most of them were the real senior black belts within the USAKF anyhow, in real traditional Japanese styles. So we're inculcated with that value. But you still have this desire to win all the time, okay? You still have to bring yourself under control. Guy comes in, makes excessive contact, and well, it's because he doesn't like to lose, he's still disqualified, it's unacceptable. And if it's regarded as malicious, that's it, he's out for a period of time. So I don't care if somebody doesn't like to lose, I don't like to lose. But you have no business utilizing a bad attitude because you're losing. Okay? Everything in karate has to be self-contained, self-controlled. Injuries and accidents. In the case of an injury of a competitor, the referee shall at once halt the match, assist the injured competitor, and at the same time call the competition doctor. We used to say, don't touch the competitor, let the doctors come in, and this has to do with liabilities here in the United States, which are much more severe than in Europe, okay? So, if somebody really gets nailed, I'm not gonna pull the mouth guard out of their mouth, but I'll assist them, okay? I'm not touching blood. Nope. That's gonna be up to the medical people, all right? We should always have a bottle of diluted bleach ringside. It's the only known substance to kill the AIDS virus, which is still a thing. It's not as highly advertised now, but there's a lot of blood pathogens. And, you know, I deal with special education kids, so we have things like this happen all the time. I'm touching the little shits. Pardon my French. That's up to somebody else. No, I am not catching your diseases, thank you. So, and I work with a lot of inner city kids, so we have all kinds of really interesting diseases that we don't get out in the suburban areas. So, but you get the idea.
Is the coach allowed to go out there?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nobody's allowed out there except medical personnel. We don't need a bunch of people in the room. Okay?
So this is a stupid, obvious answer to the question, but if it's an emergency situation, they're choking on the thing, we still need.
That's different. I mean, you see somebody that's choking, the referee isn't responding accordingly, you need to get out there and apply the Heimlich maneuver. I don't think anybody's gonna say anything about it, okay? Usually it's not gonna be with an adult athlete, it might be with little kids. I am not that bad, I'm not that much against going out on the ring if it's a child, and maybe the kid didn't get hit all that hard, but they're scared. You know, why do kids cry? Not always because of pain. They're afraid of the situation. Comfort them. As a referee, wax parental with them, depending on how you are with your own kids. Shut up, now here's something to cry about. That was always my favorite with my dad when he'd say, shut up or I'll give you, quit crying or I'll give you something to cry about.
You just did.
So, that memory. Only the competition doctor can make a decision concerning all matters about injuries, accidents, or the physical condition of the competitors. Okay, I'm going to take an issue with that here in the USAKF. First of all of you have to get your certification through Safe Sport, and I have to be supplied with a certificate that shows you have taken the concussion certification, okay? It's not difficult. It doesn't take that long. They have no trick questions. They just want to know you have some familiarity with concussion. For instance, in my younger time, if you got a concussion, you were told, don't let them go to sleep because they might fall into a concussion, into a coma. They know that that's spurious garbage now. Somebody's got a concussion, they want to go to sleep, let them sleep. It does not have any other effect. That's where a lot of the stuff about concussions is being debunked. A person does not have to be knocked out to get a concussion. All that is required, what happens with a concussion? The brain bounces off the brain case and creates internal injury to the brain. There's your concussion. And you have many different levels of that. Therefore, a hit to the body and a jarring of the head can result in concussion. It's like getting rear-ended by somebody. My daughter had just gotten her car. I get a call, And she's freaking out. She just had somebody rear-end her on the expressway doing 70 miles an hour when she was doing 50 in her Elantra. We couldn't even open the trunk. I mean, that's how badly it got smashed. And I was glad that she trained with me for a long enough time. I asked her, how are you? She said, well, I was relaxed when I got hit. And of course, fortunately, that's one of the reasons why you have the headrests as high as they are now. So you're not getting your head snapped back. But that kind of thing could have been really devastating for her. You get the idea. I got broadsided in '84, and unfortunately, I was looking sideways at the guy when he hit me. It took 10 days for my neck to go out. And when it did go out, I couldn't get out of bed. I had a water bed, and in those days, back then, I had to grab my shoulders, rock back and forth, throw myself over onto my belly, and belly out of bed. And I have cervical disc damage as well. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
What is this test we have to take?
It's safe sport, and it's certification for concussions.
Is that on the line?
Yes, yes, yes.
If we took it a few years ago, is that still good?
They're good for every 2 years. Every 2 years you have to get another one, which means I have to get mine again.
Say, and that means
So-
everybody.
And by the way, that is Ohio state law.
Yeah.
That is Ohio law. If you are a coach of any kind, Little League, you have to be certified in concussion law. If you are an official of any kind, you have to be certified. If you are a parent assisting the team, you have to be certified in concussion law. It is a broad sweeping law now in Ohio. And if you are officiating and you don't have the certifications, it can become criminal, all right? So Ohio's not playing games with this. We're really trying to bring the potential for CTE way down, especially with our kids, all right? Matter of fact, the NFL is studying different methods of tackling now. They're actually studying rugby's method of tackling, which is by far more effective than NFL form. And why? Because in rugby, they don't wear pads of any kind. They don't wear helmets. And they have literally no CTE in the game. We're doing something wrong with our sports. You get the idea. So, we don't need this for kids. You know, years ago, I was refereeing. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and it was one of Don Madden's tournaments, and one of his young kids who was all of about 16, 17, and it was a 10-year-old division. The one kid really got hit, and I gave the indication for excessive contact. And he said, no, these kids got to get tough. I said, they're 10 years old, you imbecile. You don't need a tough 10-year-old. Keep them training in traditional karate for the next 10 years. They'll be tougher than nails, and they won't even know it. This idea of you got to get hit continually as a kid to get tough. Really? Why do you think a lot of kids quit sports? Yes?
Is it recommended that you get CPR certified to be a referee?
If you have CPR certifications, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Mr. Hickey and I have discussed it, and as we start getting things up and running and we come out of COVID, we'll start looking into some of these things as well. So yeah, CPR certification is a good thing. I would also recommend being certified in the use of paddles, which we're supposed to have in the tournaments.
I'm sorry, a lot of the CPR classes have that already.
Yeah.
Defibrillators.
You have to be able to. Can I get them on that?
Yeah, you gotta know the paddles. The thing is, we need to have the paddles at the tournaments.
Right.
So,
Because I get certified in April.
Just raise your hand and excuse yourself.
yeah.
So you can.
Yeah, it's, matter of fact, Dr. Brian Pendleton is still alive because of them having paddles at the natatorium. It was several years ago. Mr. Anderson was still alive at the time. And I remember Jerry Gray was still around too. Jerry, when he told me about it, he said, Brian walked up to him after class, put his hand on his shoulder and said, man, I must have trained harder than I thought. And Jerry said it sounded like 10 pounds of raw meat hitting the floor. He turned around and boom, Pendleton was down. And if they hadn't had the paddles, he would have been dead. And as the doctor also informed him, he was lucky he was where he was because he could have been swimming and the same thing would have happened. That's a bad scene. Or he could have been out driving on the expressway. He was essentially an explosive heart waiting to happen. It was just a question of time. So, you know, things like that happen. I hope you're around the right people. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kiyoshi, but I have to get going.
Go. Thank you. No, you're not allowed to. Okay. A competitor who wins the match through the disqualification of their opponent for causing them an injury cannot fight again without the written permission of the competition doctor. So, you really have to read through this. I think they worded it incorrectly. But if there has been an injury, maybe I through my technique, I injured them, but it was not enough to give me a hansoku. Maybe I went to the attendee chui, which is the first formal warning, right? So I have not been disqualified, but now my opponent decides they want to retire. They feel they're injured enough, they don't want to continue, maybe they're afraid, whatever. They will be given a kiken, which means an early retirement. This person then wins the match. So at that point, you have to have the written permission of the competition doctor to continue. Actually, no, that's not it. Okay, no, I misread it. I've been injured by my opponent, and I win through their disqualification, okay? In order for me to continue, I have to have permission from the competition doctor, all right? So if I have that permission, I can continue. However, I can only continue, I can only win once through disqualification and continue. If the next person injures me and gets disqualified, I can win that match, but I cannot fight again. I'm done. We don't want to reward people for getting hurt. Of course, it used to be that if you got an injury, then you also got a point for being injured. And I was glad when they took the penalty points out, because why should I give you a point because you got your nose in the way of this fist? You know, so I understand the idea of the disqualification, the penalties, etc., and I fully favor them, but I don't like to award somebody for being stupid. We call those civil lawsuits. When a competitor wins through disqualification of their opponent for causing them an injury, the tatami manager will send the judge with the injured winner to the competition doctor. The doctor will complete the injury sheet. We don't have injury sheets, thank God. They're pretty excessive, but it's necessary for world championships, especially when we have all these different countries competing with each other. It is the jury table's responsibility to monitor the competitor's progress to the next round and to show the injury sheet to the tatami manager. So if we do have an injury, we have to know about it, all right? No point shall be awarded if the competitor injures his opponent, even if the injury is only very minor, okay? You got a skin abrasion on the face. It's not major, it's a minor injury, can't get scored, okay? Person comes in and they hit with a nice leg sweep, but they're too high on the leg, and it develops a hematoma, which can happen rather quickly. It's an injury. So you can't get a point for that, even if you off balance them and follow it up with a technique, okay? These things don't happen very often, but they can happen, all right? Victory or defeat after an injury. When a competitor who suffers a minor injury but not serious enough to disable them refuses to continue with the match or requests for permission to quit the match, they shall be declared the loser by kiken. Kiken is essentially voluntary retirement, or when we're first calling competitors to the ring, we bring everybody in, person hasn't shown up with the division, it's their turn to go in and fight, we will call them 2 times, the 3rd time, they're given kiken to disqualified. If it's double elimination, they're moved into the loser's bracket, they can fight again. In the case of rubber charge, if they lose against one of the winners of that round, they can be dropped into the rubber charge and fight through the rubber charge. But that's, you hope you lost to somebody who won when it comes to rubber charge, and we'll cover that too. If 2 competitors harm each other or they're suffering from injuries previously incurred and they are declared by the competition doctor as unable to continue, the result of the match will be the fight is won by the competitor that has accumulated the most points, pretty obvious. If the score is the same, the referee will call for a hantai to decide the winner. And that means if the people cannot compete because of injury, and we call hantai, which is, it's a draw, so you have to decide. Ordinarily, if two people have been competing and it's a hantai, they'll usually go with a draw, which means then you move into encho sen, sudden death. You can't do that when these two people have been hurt. You have to make a decision. And we'll get into what to look at to decide who is the winner of that. And this is what I'm also happy to see. In all kumite sanban, the mirror system will be used to adjudicate each match. We used to have, you could either have the corner judges or mirror system. They decided to just continually go with the mirror system, which I personally think is a superior method of refereeing anyhow. What I don't like about the WUKF, they went back to the 4 corner referees, which we proved all the way back in the early 80s doesn't work. So, but they decided to regress and go back to that. And it's understandable to some degree because when you're working with the international level and the Olympic level at that, you want to make sure you have as many different referees or judges from as many different countries as you possibly can to have as much of a fair outcome of events as you possibly can, because referees at the Olympic level are known for not playing fair. 1972, women's diving, they brought the judge cards out and showed how the East German judge had scored his divers first, second, and third respectively. These people know how to play the points in order to make sure they put somebody where they want them to be, which is why they have 7 judges in Olympic diving, in order to be able to shut that kind of thing down, all right? So that's when you have to make a decision as to not only which method is more reasonable. The mirror method is more reasonable because you have much more of an opportunity to see the techniques land, since you're going to be walking through and moving around continually as opposed to sitting in a corner where you only have a very limited view. In scoring, you can only score what you see. And we used to play this game in tournaments that were not WUKF. You come in and you hit yourself because some of the judges hear that sound, boom, and the flags pop. And you know they didn't see it. No, you have to be able to see the technique, all right? And some fighters become very skillful at knowing they're about to be hit. They can't stop the hit, but they make a very rapid foot adjustment. Boom, they take the hit. They block both officials from being able to see the hit, and he scored. Boy, that pisses your opponent off. You know I hit you. Hit, yeah, I do. Yeah, you hit me. But they can't score it. Isn't that just terrible? It's a game, man. It's part of the game of understanding strategy. I've heard that so many times this last period of time. So it's strategy and tactics. And it's actually the application of Sun Tzu's art of war in a one-on-one confrontation. Read Musashi, Gora no Sho. Read the Book of Fire, read Sun Tzu's Art of War, and then read The Lost Art of War. Best translations in that are Thomas Cleary. He is known as the consummate in all philosophical translations from Oriental into English. Eric Sotnick, who's one of my senseis here, and is a professor of philosophy at the University of Akron, and he focuses on Eastern philosophy, the Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita, Zen Buddhism, etc. So very, very skilled in this field. Just lost my train of thought. Oh, it'll come back to me eventually. At any rate, getting strategy. Oh yeah. The idea of tactics and strategy are of extreme importance, and of course, you know, strategy is having a game plan. Tactics are your ability to apply the game plan. As they say, generals are very infamous for saying, so what happens with strategies? Well, strategies fall apart as soon as the battle ensues. when Duke Wellington was getting ready to go into the Battle of Waterloo with Napoleon Bonaparte, one of his field marshals reputedly had asked him, "My lord, in the event something happens to you tomorrow, what are your strategies?" And Wellington replied with, "Tomorrow, who will attack first, Bonaparte or me?" And he said, "Well, most likely Bonaparte." And he said, "When he attacks, I'll let you know what my game plan is." So, you may have the best game plan in the world, you better be able to adjust it when you walk into the ring, because everything falls to pieces as soon as the fight starts. I want to get into hand signals at this point, so let's go ahead and move the chairs off the floor.
All right?
Go sit in the corner.
Looking at me.
Can't take him anywhere, okay. The referee and the mirror, very similar. With the exception that referee, when they call Ipan, it's here. When you're a mirror, they put it at about a 90-degree angle this way, here. So the mirror should not be giving really large overt hand signals, but they must be communicating with the center referee. So first of all, you will have, and like I said, I don't think we're going to have enough officials to have the moving concept. The moving concept moves around the perimeter of the ring, concept being arbitrator, and if there's an out of bounds, they can only call it on the line on which they are currently standing. All right, so if they see an out of bounds over there, they can't call the out of bounds as the moving arbitrator. All right, but it adds a third person to be able to watch the perimeter of the ring and see how things are going. In the event of hikiwaki, or the hantai and hikiwaki, which is make your decision, the moving kansa also has a vote. The seated kansa does not. Now, if we don't have a moving kansa, the seated kansa will have a vote in hantai. But I think you can see why the seated kansa does not have a vote, because they can't see things the way the moving kansa can, all right? So when we begin the match, Tony?
Yes, sir.
And Chris?
Right.
Right here. This is kansa, this is judge. So we're facing everyone and it becomes atagani, rei, that's bow to each other. Now the center referee takes a step back, they turn in, we bow to each other. The kansa goes to the chair at the table, the mirror goes across the floor to the mirror position. Now, how are lines drawn? Here, we made these the competitor lines, and these are the officials' lines. We did that primarily so that people had a side view when they're sitting there observing in our shiais. The competitor's line is 1 meter. The official's line is ½ a meter. From the competitor's line to the inside is 1.5 meters, all right? So otherwise it's 6 feet from line to line. And the officials are 2 meters back. So this puts the officials that much further out of the way, all right? So knowing which line you go to. Starting the match, since we're doing Sanban Shobu, you'll start, let's do this, facing front, feet together. You say Sanban Shobu. I step back to my left as I have been trained. They don't really emphasize that. They say it's okay just to step back, but here's the problem. I have the jury table behind me. The kansa is sitting somewhere in the neighborhood of being behind me. They used to sit dead center. Now we have them on one side of the table or the other, so they have a better view. But if I notice the kansa sitting over here, I'll take my slide this way. If you're over here, I'll take my slide this way. Because I do not want to move in any way, shape, or form that is going to blind the kansa. I want them to have clear view, all right? So, we start from here. Show someone. Now, I'm going to say stop. Arm comes from way up. Yummy! Now note I'm not retracting. The elbow always leads. Mr. Anderson called this splitting the saddle. Comes from a story about Robert the Bruce was riding with King Edward Longshanks in one of the battles, I believe it was Bannockburn, and one of the knights of Scotland was attacking with a lance, and Robert the Bruce reputedly took his double-handed battle axe, he deflected the lance and rose up in his saddle and came down, and he hit the knight so hard that he literally cut the guy in half and cut the saddle off of the horse. So this we call splitting the saddle. The elbow always leads, and the contraction then goes into pectoralis major and latissimus dorsi. So this hand doesn't do anything, it just kind of hangs out. One of our Shihans, I'll leave nameless, but whenever he refereed, you'll know what I'm talking about. Whenever he would referee, this hand would be rigid at his side to make sure that that hand wasn't pulling back. I watched him one day and we refereed for like 12 hours. I said, man, your hand's gotta be killing you by the end of the day. You just have to be relaxed. It just comes in here. Boom. That's it. One row each, which means, or one row each, which means return to the lines. So, we've stepped in. Yummy! I step back to my line. One row each. Now, if they're already getting back to the line, I don't have to say one row each. All right, that just means get your butts back to the line. Good. Now, on this action, my hands are out at about 45 degrees, and they're up at shoulder height. This is though I'm holding the fighters away from each other. Then strong contraction of the pecs and the lats again, and the hands come in. It's a hard and fast, hey, and then up. So what you said is, ready, begin. And you pull out, all right? So, you must have a good front stance. And I don't care if it's right or left, I can care left. Step out. Yummy! Pull back to the line. We're going to score red. It is always to the right of the referee. And I look. Aka. Churansky. Sorry. Now, a habit that I see a lot of referees do, and it's really entertaining to me. But they'll look at the athlete and say, Aka, Churansky, sorry. And they watch your hand. Why do you gotta look where your hand's going? You should know where your hand is. I'm looking at the competitor. Aka, Churansky, sorry. I don't break eye contact with the competitor. Essentially, I'm telling the competitor, yes, I'm awarding you a point. I'm also reminding you it's still my ring, don't forget it. You get the idea.
Right.
I want to have a subtle control of the ring, mentally, psychologically, physically, through the entire tournament. I will not lose control of my ring, all right?
Right.
So, okay? Good. Yummy. Ao. Kinshi. Now, it's held at a 60-degree angle, this way. There's no pointing on a kinshi. Just kinshi. That is the first warning in the kinshis, all right? So the first time, ao, kinshi. I don't have to tell them it's for Jogai or anything else. I still, for USAKF, kinshi, Jogai. I let them know you went out of bounds, okay? But Jogai used to be in a separate category. We actually had 4 Jogais. They took that category away, they took the Jogai and put it into the kinshi. So we only have non-contact penalties and contact penalties. That's it. They all escalate together, all right? So, ordinarily, if they've gone out of bounds, my mirror's giving me the indication anyhow, and athletes should be paying attention. If it's little kids, I'll actually tell them, okay, watch going out of bounds, all right? So we have kinshi 1, kinshi 2. Kinchi Chui, that is the official warning, 3rd level. Kinchi Hansoku. Kinchi Chui would be point to, actually they're saying to the chest now, not the belly.
Right.
So Kinchi Chui, I point to the chest. Kinchi Hansoku, I point right at the face. And that means, you're out of here, it's disqualification, right? Always have the winner report to the table. And that's actually a rule with WUKF now. Please. The winner must report to the table, okay? And for all of you guys who are doing the jiu-jitsu competitions, you're doing the same thing there, telling the winner to report to the table. I'm sure you've been in tournaments where the winner didn't have to report their name to the table and you found out you had some royal screw-ups. So yeah, make sure. We had some two sets of identical twins in one of our nationals. And you couldn't tell these kids apart to save your life. And they were young enough that they didn't know they were alive yet. So they weren't sure who won and who lost. So we had to really go after them to make sure we had the right person on the line, okay? So don't take anything for granted. Let's get some of our fighters out here. Go suit up.
Liam!
All right, you guys have now become our 6-year-old orange belts, all right? So you're out here and you're moving with each other and you start going around in circles. And I see referees do this all the time. Slow down. Let us stay with you. So they're going around in a circle. And we're doing this. Absolutely not. At no time do I want to lose the top hemisphere as the center referee because I'm relying on my consult. This is where the referee has control of the ring. Mirrors, you can't do your own thing. You've got to work with the referee. Referees, hopefully you have fought enough that you can anticipate the movement of the fighters. You've got to be able to read them. This is why they say best fighters make best kumite referees. So they start going around in a circle. Notice how I'm controlling where they're going. I let them move just far enough. I could still see if he came in on an attack, and with just a slight shift, I can definitely catch it. But as soon as he takes another half step, I have to shift immediately because otherwise I'm blind to the technique. So I must not allow myself to get out of position. Referees lose their licenses all the time because they're caught out of position. You can't be caught out of position. You just can't. All right? So, you two come in. You're on that side. Out of the ring. Out. No, Liam, you're over here. Out of the ring. Sensei Harmon.
Hey.
Take center.
Hey!
Sensei Doherty. Take near. I want them to run the first match so you get a feel for it, all right? You get a sense of how things are going. Now, for those of you who've never officiated before, the chances of my putting you in the center position are slim to none. I'm not going to do that to you, all right? I want you to have some tournament experience before I start feeding you into these things. That's why when we have dojo shiais, officials should, as much as possible, be going to the various shiais to get as much experience as you can, because we only have about 2 tournaments a year in USAKF now. When Lance and I were fighting the world team, we started back then, we were AAU, and we were also receiving supplements from the AAU as far as running our tournaments, which helped a lot. But we had at least 8 tournaments a year. Through the course of the year, we had 1 tournament a month, an AAU tournament. And so we did at least 8 of those, and then we would have our nationals. So we had a lot of tournaments, and then our top fighters were also going to a lot of the open tournaments, even though the rules were still completely different because you were trying to get under fire. So it wasn't a matter of the big thing that I've told students that are trying to prepare for any international competition. I don't care what tournament you go to, don't change the way you're fighting because, oh, well, this is what scores in this. No. You fight the way you fight, because I don't care about the open tournaments. I can care less, that's only your experience.
Our referees go into open tournaments here, in refereeing. Do you think that would be beneficial?
It can be, but they don't necessarily follow the same set of rules, so just don't adjust the way you do things.
Yeah, definitely, but
Yeah.
still, the idea of seeing the action, being.
I
in
agree.
action,
Yeah.
Getting that would be
Yes.
beneficial.
But anything that is training your eyes to be able to see, all right? I'll give you for instance. The first time I saw Enter the Dragon was in the fall of 1975. And I started at the Ohio Youth Karate Club in January of '76. And where Bruce Lee is facing off with Bob Wall in the first closing, when he moved, it was blinding to me. I've never been in karate, I've never been in any kind of fighting training before. I couldn't see. He moved so fast I couldn't see it. I saw it again when I was a 3rd-degree black belt. It was becoming pretty clear. I saw it again by the time I was a 4th-degree black belt. I could see absolutely everything he was doing. It was no longer so fast, because my eyes were trained. This is exactly what we mean in traditional karate when we ask, do you see? It's more of just what your eyes are picking up. It's your ability to process it and understand, all right? So, they always start from outside of the ring. Okay. One of each.
Stay away from the head, gentlemen.
Okay?
Sama, Hajime!
It's on my shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Freeze! This call indicates distance. It can be used either for too far away or too close. We used to do this and then this, but no, it's this. This indicates my E is off. So if the person's gotten in too close and they're throwing these little tuck punches, which we don't score, this would be the indication. Now, he should be communicating with him the entire time, not just waiting for the score or for the calls, but every time there's an exchange, he should be talking to him.
Hey.
For instance, awesome. This means weak. This, missed. This, blocked or ran into a limb, all right?
Hey.
This, avoiding combat. This, kinchi, mabobi or whatever, right? So this is where you have to have all these hand signs, and that's how you communicate with each other. So he sees something, he can tell him right away. So therefore, he's got to be able to watch both of them and see him. He has to see both of them and watch him. Everything has to work in concert. And then on top of that, you also got to know where your kansa is, so you can rely on them. And if you have a moving kansa, you have to know where the moving kansa is, so you don't block their view at any point in time. Okay? Go ahead.
When we started.
All right, just keep going.
Hajime.
Which actually, you would say at that point is zukite. Zukite means continue. Freeze. You're not trying to fight, boys. I want scores. Not from just one or the other, but I want things to happen so they're confused. You're not fighting for a medal. Stop fighting. Start setting them up.
Hajime.
Come in. Okay, you two are out. Chris and Steve. Reverse your chest guard and take opposite side.
Weak technique.
You should only use one hand, not both.
I'm sorry, yes, sir. This thing has mind of its own, you know.
No, that's not a bad thing, but it's just limitations, so.
One hand. Sanban Shogu? Shogu Hajime.
Sanban Shogu.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sanban Chobu means 3-point match.
What do we?
Gentlemen, you're not trying to fight and win a world title. I want you to set each other up and really jab with your minds.
Samba, show! Hajime!
Yame. One each.
What do we?
Okay. You, did that really quickly. Did you pick it up?
Yeah, I seen him.
But it's not enough.
Yes, sir.
You've got to be formal in that. No, you can't be casual. You are talking to the entire spectator audience as well. Your calls have to be clear. Okay?
Zuke! Hajime! Yame! Ao! Kichi!
For what?
Uncontrolled.
That's done this way.
Right.
Mind control technique is this. It results in a kinchi.
Alright.
But you're not calling kinchi. He's got to know why you're calling kinchi.
Yes, sir.
So this is uncontrolled technique. This is avoiding combat. All right. Both of those are kinchis. All right. But he's got to know exactly what the call is. All right.
Alright. Zuke! Hajime!
Freeze. Both you guys are still trying to fight. You're not setting people up. You got to set each other up so it's confusing to the officials.
Well, they're running around like they're all on fire. It's confusing enough.
That's the right? Oh, you can go. No, I'm gonna put him there.
Hi. See, now you guys messed it up.
Somebody's gonna get called.
See, these are all supposed to be set up and moving around. They're not supposed to be trying to actually, going.
Okay, Steve, you're out.
Hi.
Chris is good.
Hi.
Yeah, Chris and Chris. Thing one and thing two. Twiddle up and twiddle each.
All down these shoulders.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What kind of equipment do the competitors have to have?
If you're showing up on time, not just.
Leo.
Ten push-ups, huh?
Did that come out? I was thinking that. Push up, look around to see who said it. What does it mean?
Yeah, the push-ups are real. I'm gonna give it.
What's that?
The push-ups are real. I'm gonna give it.
Are we ready?
The WUKF website. Mandatory equipment, compulsory equipment is mitts, gum shields, groin protectors. Those are the mandatory. Shin protectors and white instep protectors are allowed for Sanban Kumite. Sport glasses and contact lenses on their own wrist during kata. Forbidden equipment, spectacles, shin protectors for Ippon Kumite, and shin instep protectors for Ippon Kumite. So the mandatory are the mitts, the gum shields, and the groin guard. Pretty much like it was back when we were in the USAKF.
Chest guard or help here.
No. Matter of fact, the chest guard, chest protectors for female kumite. So the women are expected to wear it, and they're supposed to have the kind that go under the knees. We're not going to say anything about that, but they will at the WUKF championships. For the kids, not so much. They will allow the children to wear body protectors, because it's really difficult to get those things small enough for kids to wear underneath their knees. Body protectors, which is what those would be regarding. And helmets for children, Nihon Kumite, we permit headgear in the USAKF. It is illegal in Sanban Kumite. So, and that's for everybody, kids and adults. Okay.
They're developing their shenanigans.
No, they're allowed to talk to each other.
You're not writing a screenplay.
It's being recorded. Use the-
Monoish, to your eyes. Watch the head contact, guys, even in the play games, okay? Sama, show, Hajime! Yame! Aka! Yame! Alright, to your line. Oh! Chicago!
No, you can't do that without going to the.
Through everybody else.
However, I wouldn't necessarily give a Shikaku on that, although it can be, but I would definitely Hansukui out of that match.
Yeah, don't ask me to come.
That's unsportsmanlike conduct. As soon as the mats are, the pads are thrown, Yame should have been right there.
Right?
Before he even had an opportunity to close across the ring. As soon as those mitts came off and threw them on the floor, boom! And I don't care how old the kid is.
Right.
If your kid's competing at the age of 6 and they don't have self-control, I have no sympathy for disqualification. We don't care about IEPs. They don't come into our game. We don't care about any mental diagnosis. They don't come into our game. Give up on the, well, they have ADHD. I don't care. This is karate. We don't care about the personal maladies that people are living with, okay? We're not bound by what education is bound to. And we don't play with it, okay? So the kid has no control. I recommend you start working on the child having self-control, or they're gonna get disqualified. That's it.
Question.
Yeah.
If so, he would have done something that maybe so not for the Kenshi, but not the Hansuko, but to the Chewy, even though he scored with A. Do I go bad first, then good, or good, then bad? Or does it matter?
If you're gonna score him, I go ahead and score him and then give him the penalty,
Right. Right.
okay?
Yes. 2 lines.
In this, you can score and have a penalty. In WKF, you cannot. If there's a penalty, there cannot be a score at the same time. Different set of rules.
Right? Aka! Jodan Yuriken! Wasari!
That would be Jodan Uchi. Uchi is strike.
Right. But it was a bad fist.
Yeah, it's Jodan Uchi.
Jodan, yes, sir.
Jodan Uchi is back fist.
Right.
So you don't call the definite technique as far as that goes. Jodan Uriken and Jodan Uchi.
Yes, sir.
Which is
Right.
a strike.
Right? Or what's that? Aka, Jodan Uchi, Wasari, Ao, Hansuko.
From what?
Unsportsmanlike conduct, mister.
No.
Throwing, putting that,
Kinshi.
Kinshi, Hansuko.
To the face.
Oh, I was gonna go, my mistake, I reversed, I was just going Chewy. So then, Ao, Hansuko, Chewy.
You have to go in Kinshi first. You have to indicate which group it's in.
Right.
It's in the Kinshi, so you have to indicate first.
Right? Ao, Kinshi, Hansuko, Chewy.
Watch.
Ao, Kinshi, Hansuko, Chewy.
There's a break in between.
Yes.
I don't run everything together.
Right.
I make it very, very clear that this has been very carefully thought out, and I am meeting this out without rushing through it, but I'm very definitive in my decision. All right?
Right?
You're out, you're in.
Hi.
You two are out.
Right?
Let's bring Center. Yeah, you. It's not a tournament. You know, I'll only chew you out a little bit. I don't know, I'm here.
Oh, let's try it again.
That's why I was hoping you guys would have read the rule book before you came in. I did. Dave's preparing for this thing.
Well, I didn't know that referee seminar in 2 years. I didn't know I was gonna make it until whatever day that was. I don't even know.
First of all, you gotta tell them how to ring, okay? So you start from outside. Your feet should be together. At no time are you casual in this, all right? So for instance, if I'm standing this way, and I'm going, Shadonsky, sorry, it looks rather casual, doesn't it? So, no, my heels are together. I look directly at the person. I don't face it. I will turn and face when I'm calling antennae, Tony.
Aye.
On the antennae, I will face.
Aye.
Okay? On the point calls, I'm just here. Okay? So, first of all, I'll ring. One each. Show us how much. What you mean? Yummy! Oh, Kinchi. Now why? He indicated he came in with a sweep the first time, he didn't follow up. I let that pass in black belt position. Second time, it's a penalty. Once you've made this kind of indication, you gotta try and follow up with something, all right? So, first time in black belt position, I let it slide. Why? Because he's trying to get a read on how he's going to respond on the first effort for the sweep. The second time, no, you had a chance to read it the first time, you don't get a second chance, all right?
That's not a contact, so a tenai, that's a kinshi?
It's not something that's excessive contact, so I'm not gonna go with contact on that one, I'm gonna go with the fact that you didn't follow up, so I'm gonna put it.
So it was a Kinchy because it was just a check, but if it was a pure, somebody who trying to sweep and it caught.
If he was trying to do something like this and really injures his leg because he's really trying to brutalize his leg, that's an antenna.
Aye.
Hey, Hajime! Yummy!
They missed.
Aka. Kimchi. Which I would use if I wanted to indicate the Mabobi.
Aye.
You hit, you turned your back, you made no effort to protect yourself, you turned around, why didn't you hit him in the back? Sute? Hajime! Yummy! Oh,
Different here because.
Kinchi. The second Kinchi is out of bounds. Dave, Hajime! Got it! Try my son. I'm not gonna go to a penalty on that one, but watch it pushing.
Right.
Dave, Hajime! Yay! What am I calling?
You're calling punch.
No.
Back fist.
Oh, Joranichi. Sorry, back fist. Dave, Hajime! Yummy! Now, in this case, I can't score him. I question the contact. It was a touch, so I can't score it. But Torimasen, I've essentially penalized him in that regard. However, if he touches again, I'm going to penalize him for the contact, all right? It was not a malicious contact, it's illegal, which actually, in this weight division, we should have general face touch. So, which I forgot to say. So the advanced division, it should be general face touch, so that actually would not be a penalty. would be sorry because it was a well-controlled technique. So you are allowed touch, you know, really, that's control. Say, Hajime. Oh, kimchi, chewy. Okay, it's me. Wrestling match, gentlemen.
Would that be kind of like a speaking to him?
It could be, he did it once. If he persisted, I'd hit him with it. So, all I heard was, come on, I didn't hear anything else. So, it might have been one of those little guttural things. I'm not going to say anything about that, but if he starts talking to him, trying to irritate him or carrying on unnecessary conversation, then I'm going to penalize him. Okay? Although, the come on did lead to the pushing and shoving, but at this point, their pushing and shoving isn't something I'm going to penalize, I'm just going to stop it. They move in, they start wrestling around again, and I'll stop it. They do it a third time, I'll penalize them. Yes?
A certain amount of throws you're allowed to do, right?
If the throw has to be controlled, throws can only be from the waist down. The technique has to be controlled to the floor, but you cannot just move in and try to throw right away. It has to be off of a justifiable endeavor to score, then yes, I can execute it. So throws can be used, yes. They have to be totally controlled. Shoulder throws are illegal. Ogoshi would be illegal. Essentially, the Dayashi Harai, your Okoriyashi Harai would be legal. When you start getting into this kind of thing, for the Okoriyashi Harai, no, it's going to be illegal because that's excessive gravity. So, this kind of a throw where I'm dropping in or something of that nature, as long as I'm controlling, it's an immediate entry and throw. Even the boom whack, it could be a Sotogara, that could be justified as well. But as soon as I can grab him, move him, this is not a jiu-jitsu tournament. No, you can't do that.
Yes. When they both started pushing and shoving at each other, can you call a punch on both of them?
Yeah. And there are times that I would, because I've seen some of the kids get really, really aggressive with it, and at that point, and you can see when they start getting angry. And granted, this is a setup kind of thing, so we're not going to have the full effect. But that would be one of the reasons I'm looking at it. Okay, boys, come on, let's get it together. All right? Okay. Hey,
That's not the
Aka, Joranuchi, Rosario, Ao, Kenshi, Ansoku.
Maybe this ain't for you, Chris.
And at that point, the way he just walked out, now I also penalize him again. Now, why did I give him a Hansoku? Pardon?
It was his fourth pinching.
It was his fourth one, but why did I hit him with this one? Why did I hit him with a kinshi?
Is that his?
No. In a sense, but he was doing this. Goading you.
Taunting.
That's not even so much taunting. It was Mobobi. It's a defenseless attitude. Now, it'd be one thing, if he's here, he's moving this way, this isn't always defenseless, he starts to throw a technique. Right out of Southern Crane Kung Fu, which is where Heian 3 comes from.
Oh, no.
So, if I demonstrate the fact my hands are down, but I'm not doing this, which is what Adam Piles used to try to do, right? You know, just, that's goading, and that's unsportsmanlike conduct, and I'm going to hit you fast on that one as a black belt. No excuse for the cockiness, all right? But, I'm not necessarily defenseless. You can see my attitude as I'm fighting. My hands are down, but I can still close, all right? I would not recommend fighting that way, but you get the idea, okay? So you have center. And I'm going to feed you in the mirror. Do what you can do. Don't worry about this. You know, Mr. Anderson told us 10 years ago, it takes 10 years to develop an international referee. And then after that, they're worthless because we need glasses. You get the idea. Okay. Yeah, I do that to the kids in school all the time. I had fun. So, what did you do today that was fun? I made a child cry.
I don't remember what the, one of which,
Just call him in. Skate! Shobo-sanga, hajime. No hand sign. No!
nothing?
This. There's no hand sign on the initials. Shobo-sanga, step back. Yummy! That's the first place you're gonna have a hand sign.
Sobozama. Hajime.
Yummy! God. Feet together. Heels together, toes are 45.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. It was punch.
That is a body punch, or else chudan, which is midsection, chudan-ski. Chudan-ski. Ski is the punch or thrust. Uchi is strikes. That's right, back fist is an uchi. The punch is right skis. And ski actually is a term that comes out of kendo. It does not mean, oitsuki is not a lunge punch. Yakutsuki is not a reverse punch. Ski is insertion of the hara. So in kendo, my left foot is forward, I move this way, that's regarded as yakutsuki. It is a reverse insertion of the hara. If I'm here and I strike this way, that becomes an oitsuki. It is a forward lunging insertion of the hara. You just happen to have the hands attached to it, okay? So the hands, and this is the thing to remember about Funakoshi when he said you must think of your arms and legs as swords. Not weapons, baseball bats are weapons. You have to consider that your hands have the ability to cut. That's the idea, the hand is your sword. So that's where the ski comes from. It comes out of sword work in Japanese karate.
Sute.
Hajime.
Hajime.
Yummy!
Oh, sorry.
Number one, your heels are not together. Number two, there's no way in God's creation I would score that. You did that close. You did that on purpose. That's not a justifiable score. That's a justifiable score. I've got to have reasonable distance to extend the arm. We don't score short punches. All right? Here's the thing, it's not whether or not the person got hit. It's how they got hit. The quality of the technique is everything. That's the problem with open tournaments that I tend to have. They score whatever. Oh, it hit it. So we score it. This let's go over here and take a look at what it takes to create an econ.
I saw the left hand, not the right hand. On the other side.
Okay, we get into our Picasso. Can you sign it for us? Yeah, come here so I can touch you. Okay. So. Yeah, kids asked me what I was gonna go as. I said myself, I scare everybody, tell me that one.
No, that's one of the fucking shows teams who decided not to tell them that they weren't gonna be around. And then the lady, I don't know who the hell she was something here, mumbling something and I couldn't understand. She kept, I thought she said more nuts and I'm like, I got enough of them in there. Yeah. Oh, I kind of, after a second, I put two and two together, and I told her, I said, he's not here. I dragged him down. He's missing that one.
So you could cry.
No, he's one of the kids and guys in the local, in the neighborhood that causes trouble. And he keeps coming there, and he's bothered Emma a couple times, and he tried to run past me, and I grabbed hold of him. He grabbed him. That kid was I don't know who they are. Oh, the two little ones. That, you know Troy and Vern. That was his. Yeah, that was his duties. Oh. Those rather just. Apparently, they were gone, but they didn't know they were anywhere. Do that. Huh?
Orders some pizza.
Now, bear in mind that back in the 60s, in traditional Japanese tournaments, your back foot had to be flat on the floor in order to score. They didn't allow this, up on the ball with a foot. It had to be flat, which is very, very difficult to score. So, you know, and they finally started realizing there was a difference in movement. So it was in the 70s that we started going into knee drops and things of that nature. So that's actually very modern karate. So, number one, lineup of the three joints. That's not a lineup of three joints. That's a lineup of three joints, all right? Secondly, eye to weapon. Weapon to shoulder. Lineup of the three joints again. Weapon to heart. Here, here. That's not a lineup to the heart in any way, shape, or form. This kind of action, and we see this. And in open tournaments, people get really irritated because you don't score it. You've got to turn through. This has to be lined up with this. You don't have the lineup here. Now, even if I was going to do something along the lines of, hey, I'm good arm, I'm not lined up here. I completely turn the waist. It's a completely different thing than this, where the hara hasn't even turned. I would still not recommend trying to fight out of a back stance. But that's where this lineup becomes very important. And then finally, you get onto weapon to shoulder, shoulder to hara, hara to floor. There's that position again. Now, can you see how it's impossible? And this is what's required to have any pawn. All those elements have to be together in order to get any pawn. It's got to be perfect position. Can you now see how it is impossible, in that sense, to get any pawn kicking someone in the head? You can't have any of these elements in place if you're kicking to the head. Which in Japanese karate, Okinawan karate, would mean that a kick to the head cannot possibly be any pawn. It violates all the lower connection. The Korean stylists are never going to understand that. I won't even waste my time arguing with them. However, our advantage in Kwanmukan is we are deeply educated in the Korean value, so we can talk to them. We're also deeply educated in the Japanese value. We can talk to them. As Mr. Anderson said, the Kwanmukan Chung Kwan is the only kata you ever really need as far as Kwanmukan karate goes. But it's still very important that we do the other Shotokan forms. So we can talk to them. Because they're not going to understand our Kwanmukan Chung Kwan. Kwanmukan Chung Kwan has all 4 of the methods we use. Korean karate, Japanese karate, Chinese Trun Fa, and Okinawan karate. And when I demonstrated that for Kelly Park back in 2008, I remember when he said, this kata, you have no idea how lucky you are here. This kata is brilliantly authored, and secondly, it has all 4 of the values. Just by my demonstrating the form, he was able to see Okinawan, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. This is why you have to watch how you do the form, because all 4 of those elements are present in the Kwanmukan Chung Kwan. That's definitely not Chinese. Don't know what it is. Chinese can still have that quick action, you see. So in that regard, that's the beginning of our Chinese action. This. Very much Chinese. So this is why doing the Kwanmukan Chung Kwan, it's like 2 decades of training. That's doing the kata every day, and you'll begin to understand the form. All right?
Right.
But we still need to do the other forms, because they are what opens up our conversation with the other people, which is why we can compete in things like Shotokan. We have a basic understanding of the Kihon of Shitoru, Goju-ryu, Wado-ryu. And here's the real problem. If you don't know the Kihon of those different styles, how can you effectively judge kata? The idea of, well, score what you like. Yeah, kind of, sort of. But I have to have the knowledge base in order to know what I like. You get the idea.
All right.
So, well, it's time to wrap it up. So, let's line up.
All right.
Now, like I said, 3 hours is barely enough time for me to be able to scratch the surface. So, read the rules, go through the rule book, hard copy it. Don't load it on a device. You can't do the highlighting and things you need to do. The other thing is, the devices, you can't ship from page to page, as effectively as you can on hard copy. And I am constantly going from the beginning of the manual to the end of the manual to the middle of the manual. I'm bouncing back and forth continually. The device is not going to serve you well. And besides, there are a lot of psychological studies that have shown the tremendous value of a hard book in your hands over and above using a device. All right? The other thing is, how much blue light are you exposing yourself to? Great way to make sure you don't sleep at night. They have new glasses out now that are actually designed to phase out blue light. You can get them either in prescription, or you can get them just plain, since I wear contacts. And it's a good idea, because especially if you're looking at the computer up to 2 hours before you go to bed, it disturbs your sleep. You may not think it does, but it's essentially been pretty much proven that, yeah, that's what happens. My father always told me not to watch television after a certain period of time. He said, well, he would watch the news, but he said, watching television, always make sure if you watch TV before you go to bed, read for at least 10 minutes. because reading settles the entire mind down. I had a pair of reading glasses, and my actually used to laugh at me about it because they were twisted on my face, because I always fell asleep with my face in the book. So, but these are the things to understand. You want to really make sure you get these rules driven into your head. Only the Sanban Kumite and the Kappa. I didn't get into any of the Kappa today, so we're going to have to cover that too. We won't be able to before the tournament next week. We're going to have 2 rings. 3? 4 rings?
Two for kumite with pads, 2 with no pads for kumikata of weapons and regular kata.
Is there enough room in that building?
No, I thought we agreed on 3.
Oh, we may have, yes, I would recall.
It's gonna be 3 because there's no room for 4.
No, there isn't. Here's
There's
the
gonna be
thing.
hardly enough room for 2.
Keep in mind that the rules for 2, 6 meters square for, I believe, it's kids, Nihon Kumite, but otherwise, children's division and the adult division have to be 8 meters square. They would be 10 meters square because we still have the 1 meter warning on the outside. WUKF now goes into 12 meters square because they want 2 meters on the outside for the warning.
Right.
So,
Yeah, if that's the case, we'll only have 2,
that's what I was thinking.
because if we have to have that, the regulation signs ready.
I would strongly recommend it, because if we're gonna get people geared up for, WKF, if we can get a team going down there, we want them to be used to the regulated rings. I mean, it's 6 meters on the inside, we're using this as the out of bounds. Ordinarily, when we do Shiites, we use this as the out of bounds. I don't really like it too much, because I don't want somebody falling off the wooden floor, but, these are legal 8 meter square rings. And 8 meters sounds like a lot of room to move. You know, you go to these open tournaments and they have this tiny little space to move. It's no wonder people can't fight with the darn, because they don't have any room to move. And you need movement, okay? So, you'll be in the rings with people that have experience. They'll coach you through it. Read through the rules, get a feel. We're going to need table help. So, coming into the seminar today, you're definitely qualified to help us with table help right off the bat, okay? It takes time to get you in there as a referee. In my own opinion, don't let yourself get nervous. I know that's easy to say. I have an advantage because since I'm the chairman of the referee council, I get to walk around on the outside of the ring, and I try to have your perspective of view. However, I have the relaxation of not having any pressure for what I see. When you're in the ring as an official, there's pressure. I don't care who you are. There's a sense of pressure. And that can affect your ability to see things and not see things. And if you've refereed the number of hours that I have, the Nationals from Hell, 1993, Phoenix, Arizona. We had 2 days of referee seminar, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We were in the ring at 7 o'clock Friday morning. I refereed until about 3. Finally got a chance to go get something to eat. And then I refereed until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I had to be back in the ring at 8 o'clock the next day. We had tons of international teams in too. We had junior teams from Japan, we had teams in from South and Central America, because we had the North American Cup scheduled for that weekend too. We were in the ring the next day at 8, and again, I got lunch. I think I actually got some dinner that night, but I was in the ring until 3 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to leave, and Pat Hickey saw me and said, "Hey!" And then that was it. Actually, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, so I was trying to leave at 2. And so I got stuck in the ring for 2 more hours. And, they were nice. We didn't have to leave the ring until 9 o'clock the next day. That's a sleep in, what a joy. So then we were refereeing on Sundays. It was the kilo divisions for the black belts, and we also had the North American Cup. I didn't have an international referee license at this point because the technical head of the USAKF would not allow it. And yet, I challenged him on this, I know it pissed him off, and I don't really care, because he wasn't giving me my licensing, and I asked him, if I'm not qualified for these licenses, why is it whenever you put me in the center, you never let me out? So as soon as I got stuck in the center referee, that was it, I was there for the day. And so when it came to the North American Cup, I think he walked up to me and said, Dave, we need you to be referee for the North American Cup. I looked at him and said, I don't have a Pan-American license. I don't have a WUKF license, I don't even have a national license at this point. You're gonna get it to me. He said, no, you're the guy we need. Because all of the other teams have said very specifically they want no Japanese judges. So Peter Johnson, who was the technical head of the PUCO, Pan American Union of Karate Organizations at that time, Canadian, he was there. They put me in the center. And we were supposed to rotate, so I refereed 2 matches. I started to rotate out, and he said, no, you stay in. And I said, but sir, I hate to bring up a point of disagreement, but that is a U.S. athlete coming in, and per the rules, I'm not allowed to officiate against somebody from my own country. And he just looked at me and said, you stay in. Great. So now I'm being challenged on ethics and being fair and neutral. And Chris Nichols got madder than hell at me too. Of course, Chris always knew more than the officials did, we knew that. And so he lost, and he was madder than hell at me because he knew he should have won. And so I tried to muster out at that point, and Peter said, no, you stay. Because I had refereed according to him in such a fair and neutral form that he said, I can't afford to lose you. I had to referee every bloody match in the North American Cup. And I wasn't an international referee, and he looked at me and said, you should be a referee in the WUKF. Why aren't you? Go talk to him. He said, okay, now I understand why. So, but those are the things that you've refereed so much, you feel like your eyeballs are on your cheeks. And there are times you go, and I know you've experienced this, yummy! What the heck did I just see? Because you've seen so much that trying to keep your mind clear at that point becomes really difficult. So, this is an exercise in Jariki Zen, moving meditation. You've got to know where you are, and you've got to be where you are at the moment you are there. Total awareness. This is an exercise in Zen if there ever was one. To be a referee, and one of my students had gone to the Nationals that year with me. My hotel was 20 miles away, so I couldn't take him back to the hotel to crash or anything like that, so we found a lot of time to sleep underneath the bleachers. But at the end of the tournament, we were getting ready to come back to Akron. We were at the airport, and he said, I always thought that it was the athletes that had to have the stamina. Boy, this tournament just taught me that athletes don't have anywhere near the stamina that officials have. And I laughed and said, yeah, I thought the same thing when I was on the world team, because I knew I had great stamina, but I had no idea. Here's the thing about being an official. You must be able to move quickly, deftly, and adroitly, with agility, with purpose, and your decisions must be definitive. You can't wander around. Every action must be clear. Your movements should be as minimum as possible. You notice I don't move a lot when I'm in the ring. But I position myself so I can see the athletes when they fight. I have a clear view of them. Make sure that. I move as little as possible because I don't want to distract anybody to the center referee's movement. And that's the problem. You get these young kids that start refereeing, they start thinking that the world is looking at them. For instance, the open tournament. They have to show their skill. So, for instance, this guy wants to say, oh, he scored a head kick, so they have to demonstrate to the world that they can do a kick to the head. I don't want to see that. It's a head kick. John Barry. Head kick. You don't have to show me you can do it, because I really don't care. So we're not interested in that kind of stuff. You get the idea. Karate is supposed to be helping us shed our egos. My experience is that it tends to really lift a lot of people up to greater ego than they've ever had. Just something to think about, okay? So yeah, I got a lot of experience in this stuff, but I'm still learning. And I'm still picking things up every single day. So refereeing is a difficult thing, and it's years and years and years, and it's a thankless position too. But I will say one thing, Julius Theory used to tell us all the time, he was the technical head, that only the gold medalist likes you. That is spurious BS, and it doesn't stand for Bachelor of Science. Total garbage. I cannot tell you how many times I refereed in the regionals and the nationals, and the person who plays dead last in a 14, 15, 16-year-old division, the testosterone demons would walk up and say, "Thank you for judging it, for refereeing the fairest division I've ever played." You do things ethically, you do things with a sense of neutrality, you make your calls very clear, you don't wear your heart on your sleeve. I display no emotion in the ring. Although if you've ever worked at my table, you'll know that the people at my table have a completely different view. Because I'll be facing these people and I'll make my call. Then I turn around and I start walking back to the table, and I always have a one-liner for my table help. Because I want my table help to be relaxed. I want them to enjoy I want them to enjoy what it is that they're doing, you see. So if the table help is having difficulties, don't scold them, they're volunteers. And they don't know the rules. So as center referee, once you've made a call, you must turn to the table and tell them specifically what you want. All right? In the WUKF World Championships, you won't have to do that. Because everybody on the floor is a referee or an official at some level. Nobody is uninitiated, all right? It's a totally different thing. So, I move, Aka, Chudansky, Wasari, Aka, half point. We score the half points with an open circle and full points with a closed circle. Although we can do the 2 points with 2 open circles in a line, I have the score sheet, so we'll use accordingly, okay? So we always call them 6-point matches, even though it's a 3-point match, 3 ponds, we call them 6-point matches because we doggone well it was going to be a very rare occasion if you ever scored any pond, and you would probably struggle to get your 6 Vasaris, so that's why we called it a 6-point match. So it's respected. But refereeing can be a lot of fun. It really can. It can be a hoot. And don't take the athletes serious. Be serious with the athletes. Govern them seriously. It's like I had a kid at the school the other day ask me, "Do you have any emotions?" I said, "Nope, I got rid of those 20 years ago." One person said something to me and I said, "Well, if I had any feelings, they might hurt. Frankly, kid, you don't have what it takes to offend me, and you don't have what it takes to hurt my feelings. If you're not my friend, you can't offend me, because I just don't care." Take a look, or enough.
Hey, hey, hello. It's me, hey, hello.
Turn the camera on. Ready?
Hey, hello.
All right, thank you everybody for coming in. Each,